I think the question for me, and a lot of questions that fans have, and we've even seen this discussion on MLB Network when we were in winter meetings when a lot of moves were being made. And I think it's a good question. I don't think it's meant to be malicious in intent, but you see all these moves being made, and if you're an Orioles fan, and we've seen this just from our own feedback from our fans, what's happening? Like, it seems as if a lot of these players, especially on the pitching side, are coming off the table. So what is there left, and what do you think are the options that are out there that are realistic for the Orioles pitching side?
Well, and maybe Kev, Zach, Rocco, one of you guys we can maybe go through a quick list of who is still available free agent wise, so we can look at it. I know that, there's definitely some panic. And how about Kevin? What was the perception of this offseason for Orioles fans through the Orioles fans lens, to Brad's point? Like, what was their expectation for this offseason?
Well, I mean, in terms of guys like Tony and Corbin, there were always possibilities they would come back. Tony probably less so than Corbin, but it was about adding pitching, getting some offensive depth. They've added Tyler O'Neill, who, again, if you want to call that a 1-for-1 for Santander, or even if you don't want to call it that, they needed help against left-handed pitching. And Tyler O'Neill gives you that. And then the backup catcher position, some people wanted James McCann back. Other people wanted an upgrade there. They bring in Gary Sanchez. So now I think people turn to the pitching market. And for Corbin, I think it's an interesting conversation, especially about the length of the contract, because the reports come out probably not going to sign before Christmas. We're only a couple days out from Christmas. But is there a possibility that Corbin, we talked about like the 3-4 year range, does he take a shorter deal, try to cash in one more time? Because he's up there in age a little bit. Could he cash in one more time on like a 2-year deal, like a high money 2-year deal somewhere?
So I'm glad you brought up the Burnes Santander, and that's what I wanted to get to. And Brad, to your point, is everyone, when they heard the phrase lift off a couple of years ago, they're going, we're after it now.
Yeah, money.
And then new ownership. Oh, we're going to go out and get these guys. Well, then you're sitting there going, all right.
Even Scott Boras on the winter meeting said that the Orioles were being aggressive, and we haven't really heard much as far as like big deals are concerned.
Right. And one thing is, and certain teams would be willing to say, hey, Max Fried will give you 8 years. If you get 8 years out of Fried, if he's healthy for 8 years, it's an unbelievable investment. He is a great pitcher.
Yeah.
A lot can happen with pitchers right now. To your question, Kev, the one thing that I don't think Burnes wants to do, I don't think he wants to take a deal below 4, because if he got hurt in that span, look what happened to Jordan Montgomery having to do a prove-it year. He opted in for his second-year option because he wasn't going to get $25 million a year.
Right.
So Corbin Burnes, like, they can say, hey, it's a lot of money at some point, or it doesn't matter. Hey, you know what? If you can make a difference of $80 million or $100 million, that is going to matter. So I think for Orioles fans, and maybe Zach or Rocco, Zach, do you have the list of pitchers that are left?
Yeah, so if we go starting pitcher, I'll go in order of kind of top to from WAR last year. Corbin Burnes is the headliner. After that, you go Jack Flaherty, old friend Kyle Gibson. So two old friends there. Justin Verlander, old friend of Mike Elias. Nick Pivetta, I've seen a lot of things with teams looking at him. Charlie Morton, Andrew Heaney, Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer. Do not get Patrick Corbin. Michael Lorenzen. That kind of drops off, at least in the WAR category. After that, John Means and stuff is still out there. Jordan Lyles, if they just want to have innings 8, maybe do that again. Yeah. But realistically, if we're going to talk about guys that you feel like, okay, you add to this team and feel like they got better, obviously Corbin Burnes, he comes back, you're feeling good.
Yeah. That's my question too, is just like the Yankees have clearly gotten better. Boston's clearly gotten better. We haven't really seen much from the Rays or the Blue Jays yet either. But the O's that haven't done a whole lot to really. Can you honestly say that they're better this coming into 2025 than they were in 2024?
At this point right now?
Yeah, right. So they're not. So
they're worse.
Something still has to be done.
So here's what it goes. It's again, we are being impatient is in our blood. If you're a fan of anything and you just want your team to make moves, and I'm right there with you. So I do want to wait and see. I don't want to wait too long, obviously, but I'd like to see what this roster looks like heading into spring training. I'd like to see what it looks like when we get there before we make any assumptions or, jump the gun on what the Orioles are going to look like in 2025, because I'm guilty of it. 1 week I'll be pissed off. The next week I'll be like, all right, let's wait. So it's really, really hard to do. But what I'll say, try to be patient and see what Mike Elias has up his sleeve. Listen, if not anything, if you get to spring training and the O's haven't made any significant moves, it doesn't mean they won't make moves, but you have a reason to be pissed off because you see the players coming off the boards, and that can mean that they don't have Corbin Burnes. To me, if they don't even make a shot at trying to bring this guy back to Baltimore, considering what's now off the market, it's a failed offseason. Make a run at Corbin Burnes. If you don't get him, fine. But keeping this guy here in Baltimore should be priority number one. And then keeping your guys, the Adley Rutschmans and the Gunnar Hendersons of the world, locked up and extended here in Baltimore should be priority number two. And I know there's obstacles with Scott Boras. You got to kind of play ball with him because, again, we talked about the revenge tour that this guy has, and he's trying to get his players paid as much as humanly possible. And I, love him or hate him, I respect it. He's an agent. He's going to do what's best for his guys and himself. But for the Baltimore Orioles, having a top-of-the-line ace in Corbin Burnes, you cannot let that guy walk. If you do, and if you don't take a shot at him, again, to me, it's no bueno. So,
well, I think so. And to your point, I think they are taking a shot at him. It's just going to turn out to be, what is that final asking price going to be? And especially if Fried got what he got and Blake Snell got what he got, how do you value Corbin Burnes? And that's what Scott Boras is going to say. Well, he's at least, if you're going to go 5 years, he's at least getting more than Blake. And if he's going longer than that, he's getting more than 218. So pick your poison. That's what's going to be the challenge here for Baltimore. And this is my thing. I would be shocked if they don't make a trade or they don't sign other people, because you guys know this. I have full confidence in the young talent on the team.
Yeah.
Offensively,
they're fine.
Offensively, this is not an exaggeration. The Orioles 1 through 9 can have all-star caliber players on their team this year.
Yep.
This year. Jackson's development's going to be the biggest thing to watch there.
Yeah.
Ryan Mountcastle and Ryan O'Hearn are all-star caliber players when healthy. Not saying that they are all-stars caliber. Cedric Mullins
is an all-star.
Colton Cowser, if he takes another step.
Yep.
Jordan Westberg already was. Gunnar, Adley. Tyler O'Neill just hit 30 home runs. There's not a real weakness. Now, the biggest thing for them is their development. Are they going to be able to build off of their struggles down the stretch and grow? That's my only worry on the whole team side, is if you don't go get a surefire addition to your starting rotation that is still young, you are putting a lot of pressure on a team that struggled with pressure last year. And I think the young team, you need veteran help that can help alleviate that. At some point, those young guys are no longer going to be young guys. But for the Baltimore Orioles, if you go in and say, hey, we're going to rock with Grayson, Eflin, Dean, Povich, Sagano, which I believe that they all have a good high ceiling.
Yeah.
You're playing at least with fire of, all right, do we have the anchor? And right now we can't say that they have the full anchor because of injuries and a little bit of inexperience. So,
and that is, if that happens, Rip, if that happens and they don't get a top of the line ace, whether it's Young or Corbin Burnes, if the rotation right now is what the rotation is opening day for the Orioles, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off as a fan. I'm upset that the Orioles didn't go out and make the moves necessary to upgrade this team in the starting pitching staff, because that was the biggest question. And listen, injuries played a huge factor into why the Orioles were not as good as they should have been last year, and they couldn't have taken that next step. And some of it was, like you said, development inconsistencies. But you look at all the players that were injured last year. You look at all the players you expect to get back healthy this year. Felix Bautista included, obviously, tying up the bullpen and just closing games down. He's one of the best closers, if not the best closer in baseball. You need to upgrade the bullpen, aside from him, and you need to upgrade the starting rotation. I don't think there are going to be any concerns about Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman for the rest of their career. They're going to hit slumps, like we said. Baseball's hard. But if that starting rotation is not upgraded as a fan and we get to opening day and there is not significant improvements there, I'm pissed off. That's just from a fan perspective. That's what I'm saying.
So my bigger thing, you say ticked off. I just think it's the heat is on more for them to do well early. And if they don't do well early, then it's going to be very stressful. Like I could see the group coming out of the gate. If Grayson's healthy and Eflin's dealing, you go, damn, all right, the boys are coming out hot. The problem is that you don't have the stopper. Corbin's the stopper.
Yes.
When things go wrong, he was the guy, despite his rough month of August. So for the Orioles, I wouldn't be mad with what it is. And I'd even argue, as long as Felix is healthy, knock on wood, not for him to take the brunt work. I'm not going to expect him to be the mountain. Lights are coming on and off, and he's throwing 102-mile-an-hour fuzzballs with 92 split Johnsons where you're like, well, damn, I can't see that. But arguably, I think in the American League East, I would take the three of Batista, Dominguez, and Cano over any other three there. I'd say Devin Williams is the best closer in that division. Pete Fairbanks, is Fairbanks still there? He's gone. I forget. Did he get moved? I think he's still with Tampa.
I think he's still there.
He's still there. But we're looking at it. That back three, actually, with Batista back, looks pretty damn good because all three can close the game if you need them to, but let Cano and Dominguez be the setup guys. But the biggest thing above all, to me, it's you're playing with fire and you're counting on guys to step up. And quite frankly, you saw how injury plagued the Orioles got last year. If you don't bring someone else in, that to me is the more worry of, man, I hope someone doesn't go down. Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells are not going to be ready until late in the season. So that's where it's going to look. So we'll see. If they don't get Corbin, the Orioles are going to acquire someone to trade. That is my gut.
And that would be, and the last thing I want to say on this is that would be great, Rip, because Morosi, when you talk to him at winter meetings, I look at the Orioles and I look at it was Morosi, correct me if I'm wrong, who talked about who's going to pitch game 1, who's going to pitch game 2, who's going to pitch game 3. And if you don't have the answers to those questions and they're not reliable, not that these guys aren't reliable, but like if these guys can't match up against the rest of the American League, then you got to go out and get someone that can. Not saying they can't, but from an ownership standpoint, from a GM standpoint, and from a player standpoint, that's what it's going to take to get to the net. The starting pitching is going to take you so damn far when it's said and done.
And this is a good point. Again, I'll bring it up, Jabbo. Thank you. It takes two to tango. Mania and why those deals got done, Evaldi, price was right, and I like being here.
Yeah.
If and I'll just say this, and this is part of the Boras situation, but if Corbin truly was like, I want to be in Baltimore under any circumstance, I think the deal would have already been done. So I'm not saying he won't come back, but I think it is it's context here.